It began as a $12 billion plan to secure America's technological future, a new pipeline, not for oil, but for rare earth elements. These materials power everything from iPhones to F-35 jets, yet the US watched as China tightened its grip on global supply. The pipeline was a bold declaration. America would break free from this dependency, reshoring a critical industry. The plan spanned continents, aiming for a complete mine-to-magnet supply chain with new mines in the US and Australia, and advanced processing on American soil. The government poured in millions, private investors billions more, all for a secure American-controlled source of these vital elements. But by late 2025, the dream was in ruins. The collapse wasn't sudden, it was the result of calculated moves from Beijing, the world's rare earth superpower. China launched a campaign of economic and political pressure, systematically dismantling the American effort. The consequences reach far beyond business, touching everything from consumer electronics to military readiness. America is now more dependent on its chief rival than ever before. The question is no longer just how this happened, but what it means for the future of American innovation and security. The invisible battlefield of rare earths has just seen a major American defeat. Rare earth elements, 17 metals like neodymium and dysprosium, aren't actually rare, but are rarely found in miniable concentrations. They're the secret ingredients inside our phones, headphones, and electric cars. These elements create the powerful magnets that drive green tech and consumer electronics. Without them, devices would be bulkier, EVs less efficient, and the green revolution would stall. Rare earths are also critical for national defense, used in everything from precision-guided missiles to advanced radar. The F-35 fighter jet alone needs nearly 1,000 pounds of these materials. Their unique magnetic and catalytic properties make them nearly impossible to substitute. Engineers have built entire systems around their specific qualities. For example, adding dysprosium to neodymium magnets lets them work at high temperatures, crucial for EVs and military tech. Finding alternatives would take decades and a complete redesign of countless technologies. This lack of substitutes gives suppliers immense power. Control over rare earths means control over the modern world. China's dominance in rare earths is no accident. It's the result of a decades-long strategy. Since the 1980s, China invested heavily, subsidizing mining and research, and undercutting competitors with low prices and lax environmental rules. By the early 2000s, China controlled over 90% of global rare earth output. But the real power lies in processing. Even US mined ore is sent to China for refinement. This gives Beijing near total control over the finished materials the world needs. In 2010, China halted exports to Japan after a dispute, sending prices soaring and exposing global vulnerability. The message was clear: rare earths could be used as a political weapon. Since then, China has only tightened its grip, acquiring assets and moving up the value chain to produce high-value magnets and components. Its Made in China 2025 strategy aims to dominate not just raw materials, but the advanced products built from them. China's control is now about the entire technological ecosystem. Dependency comes with risk, and China knows how to use it. The world's supply chains are now at Beijing's mercy. America's challenge was to break this grip. The 2010 crisis jolted America into action. The US government and industry realized they couldn't rely on a rival for such vital materials. The mission rebuild a domestic rare earth industry from scratch. Mountain Pass Mine in California, once a global leader, was revived by MP Materials with government and private backing. The gold mine and process rare earths entirely on US soil. The Department of Defense invested millions to help create a mine-to-magnet capability. America also partnered with allies like Australia and Japan to diversify supply. Australian firm Lynas, the only major producer outside China, built a Texas processing plant with US support. The $12 billion pipeline was a web of public and private investment. New mines, tech startups, and chemical plants all working together. For a while, it seemed to be working. Exploration ramped up in Wyoming and Alaska. Startups developed cleaner processing methods. The dream of an independent supply chain felt within reach. But the challenge was just beginning. China watched America's efforts closely and struck back with precision. First, it flooded the market with cheap rare earths, driving prices so low that Western projects became unprofitable. Investor confidence in the American pipeline evaporated. Next, China imposed targeted export controls on rare earth processing technology, blocking U.S. access to crucial know-how. American companies faced massive technical hurdles, forced to reinvent complex processes from scratch. China also used diplomatic pressure, luring potential partners away from the U.S. with lucrative trade deals and infrastructure investments. This boxed out American efforts to diversify supply. Meanwhile, China doubled down on its own innovation, pouring billions into next-generation magnet technology. By the time the West caught up, China had already moved ahead. The U.S. pipeline was fighting a moving target, one step behind at every turn. The counteroffensive was relentless and effective. China's counterstrike hit the American pipeline hard. Investor confidence collapsed as price manipulation made long-term planning impossible. Capital dried up, stalling projects across the supply chain. Export controls on Chinese technology caused massive delays and cost overruns. The Mountain Pass processing plant fell years behind schedule. The Linus, Texas plant struggled without Chinese expertise. Startups went bankrupt, and planned facilities were shelved. The interconnected network began to unravel. One failure triggered others. By mid-2025, the $12 billion vision was reduced to a handful of struggling projects. MP Materials still mined ore, but had to send it to China for processing. The Linus plant operated at a fraction of capacity. Most planned investments never materialized. China didn't need a single dramatic blow. Systematic pressure was enough. The American pipeline had collapsed. The collapse sent shockwaves through American industry. Tech companies, counting on a stable supply, were forced to delay or redesign products. The green tech sector, EVs and wind turbines, faced critical bottlenecks, threatening climate goals and ceding ground to Chinese manufacturers. Thousands of high-paying jobs vanished before they could be created, leaving communities with broken promises. The chilling effect on innovation was profound. Companies hesitated to invest in new tech that could be cut off by a foreign power. America's appetite for bold innovation was damaged. The pipeline's failure wasn't just economic, it was a blow to national confidence. The risks of dependency had become painfully clear. The crushed pipeline is a lesson in 21st century power. Control over critical minerals now means economic and military leverage. China's playbook, industrial policy, tech investment, and geopolitical strategy turned geology into global influence. For the U.S., the defeat exposes the limits of free market solutions against a state-directed rival. Securing supply chains demands robust national strategy, public-private partnerships, and protection from predatory practices. America's options are few. Restart the pipeline with more subsidies, invest in substitutes, or accept dependency in exchange for supply guarantees. The military's reliance on Chinese processed rare earths is a critical vulnerability. In a crisis, Beijing could cripple the U.S. defense base by cutting off supply. The struggle for rare earths is about sovereignty and power. America's next moves will shape its future on the world stage. The rare earth pipeline's collapse marks a turning point in U.S.-China competition. The new battlefield is invisible. Supply chains and minerals, not missiles. China's victory secures its influence over the global economy and security for years to come. America must rethink its industrial and security policies. Free markets alone are no longer enough. The future will be shaped by those who control the building blocks of technology and energy. Rebuilding expertise and supply chains will require political will and massive investment. The silent war over rare earths is just beginning. America has learned a costly lesson about what's at stake if it fails to compete.